which is economic development. And so, this resolution would designate us to start working on applying for some of the funds that the city may be eligible for. Many of the funding that's available through the community development funds are tied to affordable or low and moderate income benefit. So it would target 51% of the benefit would be for low and moderate income families. We have been very successful. We've managed over $800 million of federal and state funding.
What is this pay and match that it states right here? It says pay and match, the amount paid in match. Is it the, the city has to match what the grant, or, I'm not familiar with it, so.
Well, there are various grant programs that require match. Most grant programs are going to require match. And it varies. It depends, like the Community Development Block Grant Program, the state CDBG program. It requires a match, and it's based on the size of the city. So there are other grants that may have a 20% match or 10% match. It just depends on what the grant program is.
Can you give us an example, like monetary wise?
It just varies. $200,000 grant may require a 10% match, maybe 20%. There may be incentives for a city, the more you match, the
So
more.
if it's let's say it's a $500,000 grant, okay, and then you're awarded, I guess, what, 10% of that, is that what we pay you for that? Or?
If you're talking about the administrative fee, again, it depends on what the grant agency allows. I'd say from 7 to 10%.
But then we match that on top, I mean, I don't understand
No,
the matching.
no, I'm talking about grant, you match the grant. So
It's a
it's,
requirement that, it's kind of like what the city has to put in for the project. So if they have an infrastructure project that's worth $100,000, the city has to match 10% of that, we have to pay. So as the money comes in, they'll give you $90,000 and we have to pay the 10.
Yeah.
Okay, now part of the 90 that the state pays would include whatever it takes to administer the grant. So typically the grant 8, 10, 20, sometimes 70, 30, depends, and there's no upfront when you apply what it is. There's even, so, and then it depends on our income, the city's income, and what we're going for. Low to moderate, what we have a lot of low to moderate income here.
Yeah.
In Floresville, because of our census data, we qualify for a lot, and so it's based on that, so our match is a lot lower.
and it'll, again, it depends on what type of program you're applying for. It depends on whether you're applying for the community development fund, or whether it's planning, whether it's, the EDA, the Economic Development Administration, it just depends on the grant.
Have we been approached by any others besides them? Or are we gonna get any
We have
other presentations
been-
or just theirs?
Just this, we have been approached by others that have a fee. They have a fee to write and a fee to go forward, and so, if you get the grant, you don't get the grant, you have to pay them their fee. This is unique, the fact that they don't have a fee associated with it. We've met with some people from HUD, and, one of the directors of HUD in San Antonio, and they recommended the company as well, to say that they do this is what they specialize in, and they have that niche, because it's all around how you write the grant, and the points and what criteria. You can spend a lot of time chasing some grants that you'll never get because you don't qualify for them. But they don't really understand the criteria. They speak a language like attorneys and engineers speak. It's not always the same thing. So it's certain ways you can make all that pretty language, but if it doesn't meet the criteria, there's no sense in running and chasing for that grant. And so that really is going to help us to move forward. So we give you a recommendation from HUD in reference to that. We've met with some other people, but they all have a huge fee. One person said that they can do $50,000, and they will only do it for 1 year. And to see how many grants they're going to be able to go and do that. So this gives an opportunity to get started with the grants. It's all in a cycle, and we're getting into it early enough so that we can apply and see.
And most grants are very competitive, and so one of the things we specialize in is looking at the scoring criteria and trying to get the best project that's gonna score the highest points for the city.
And do you have an idea of what kind of grant are you looking to go for first?
Well, one of the things that we spoke of is definitely the comprehensive plan. for long-term, that's one. We have a downtown revitalization plan, we want to look for that one. And then, of course, we have to look at our parks, and that's really important. And anything having to do with infrastructure, and water is really important, and there's some water grants out there. Excuse my language, but sometimes you just see whatever's growing sexy that they're funding. And so it changes variously. And so they'll know, because this is what they do, they're located also of what they're funding. Because Porterville has such a need that she can say they're funding water, I have a water project. If they're funding sewer, you know we have a sewer project. If they're funding parks, recreation, we have those as well. Even a facelift to the city, there's funding out there for that, we have a need for that as well. So they will go and find the grants, the ones that have, state, but also federal grants as well.
Many of our employees have, we've got many years of experience. Our president has been in the business since 1979. Some of our employees actually have worked for the state and are now either retired or working for a company. I myself used to work for the Texas Department of Community, the program moved different agencies. The last one was Department of Rural Affairs. And so I was on that side of it, where we would actually be the ones that were allocating the funds to the communities. And I retired in 2007, and I've been working for the company for a year. So this is a really good company. This is who I chose to work for.
Is there a cap on the amount of grants to receive?
Well, it depends on the program, again, it's program specific, for the community development block grant program, which is coming up, like I said, at the end of the year, it's one application. Generally, you get one application, it's for 2 years of funding. In the planning capacity building fund, for example, you can get funded if you haven't had a plan for the last 10 years approved through the program. The Texas Capital Fund, you can apply, I believe the deadline is every 20th of the month. So if you have an economic development project this month, you can apply for it. You have another business in the near future that you also need to provide some infrastructure for, you could apply for that. So it just depends. Many of them have annual grant deadlines, and it's annual. So it just depends. Some grants will say, well, you can't have an open grant and get another one. It just depends on each program will have its own criteria, its own eligibility.
But there's not a cap, a maximum monetary amount that states that you're gonna get X amount of money through a fiscal year or annually to, be based on your 2010 census.
No, there is no state or federal cap that says, well, you received $500,000 of several grants from the state, you can't apply for them.
Because USDA is what, 350, right? Has a cap of, it's a maximum of 350.
Yeah. Well, they all generally have a cap to how much you can apply for. And most of them will have an amount that says you can only apply for 500,000 or 200,000. But, and again, like I said, you may have an annual cycle, you may have a biannual cycle. It just depends on the type of program you're applying for.
Thank you.
Next, we're going to go on to item 2B, our city manager's report on community events and projects coming up.
My report is, quite short. We've been working, continue to work with our USDA grant program and the replacement of the hospital well. That was probably you all approved the last time we worked with EMS. They were undertaking soil borings, to see where they want to put the pad and the replacement. So you see that coming back for you. I've been working with the 4A and, they've agreed at their last meeting. To work with you for the 4th of July celebration to be hosted at the community center this year. The goal is to provide a celebration for the community with a small carnival, a community stage that Melissa said she's going to help me run. And
We
support,
voted to
support the grant. Support, we're gonna go and get some funding for that. We know that there's currently no funding allocated in the budget, but we're hoping with a collaborative sponsorship, we'll be, collaborative effort, we can get the sponsorship, and we'll be reporting to you, updating, going forward. The hike and bike trail, is moving forward. Staff is working with, Steve, and he'll be here, to give us information in reference to the ribbon cutting ceremony for our wonderful hike and bike trail, and it's been, deemed a national historical landmark. Any questions? I just got my typo.
A few months back, I had asked for a feasibility of a staff employee. Have you,
Feasibility, I'm sorry.
a feasibility for a staff employee, a staff attorney? Yeah. Have you looked into it, or have you
No,
done
sir, I
anything?
have not, but I will, get that.
Because that was quite a few months back.
Okay.
I think I've asked for it a couple of times already. If I can have that by next meeting,
My next meeting, yes, sir, we have that.
thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. I think I'm gonna move up 3C. Consideration and action to approve the resolution designating GrantWorks Inc. as the city's grant application period. May I have a motion?
You in 3C? I make a motion to approve the resolution designating GrantWorks Inc. as the city's grant application prepared.
May I have a second?
I second.
A motion by Councilman Nieto, second by Councilman Malones.
Madam Mayor,
All opposed? I'm sorry, yes, sir.
Ms. Cardenas asked me to call to your attention that in the fourth whereas, the word nonprofit should be just stricken, it should be just provide professional grant writing. Would the maker of the motion and the seconder of that motion discuss that, please?
Where does it say nonprofit?
On
Just strike out
whereas.
nonprofit, just.
On the resolution.
Correct.
We can make a pen and then change to that.
That's the only reason I approved it, is because they're a nonprofit, I'm not.
You retract your motion?
Yeah. I make a motion to approve the resolution designating GrantWorks Inc. With the correction on the nonprofit on the resolution as a city's grant application prepared.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Nieto, second by Councilman Malones. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Now we're gonna go on to 3B, consideration and action to reappoint the city's representatives for the Riverbend TIF Board. Ms. Turner?
Yes, some time ago, this committee has not met in some time, and the city's representative needed to be activated and voted on. And in doing so, Mr. Perez, who was the EDC director previously, was on that committee. We have requested that from 4B, and they have agreed to allow Tommy Baker to represent us, if you so choose. The next option will be the other two gentlemen that meet, they live in the community itself and sat on that board previously, and so I'm recommending that they continue to serve on the board. I have called and actually one of the gentlemen came to the last meeting to be there. Now, they only meet to talk about the tip and the money and those kind of things, and they're representing, and so just following historically what you all done before, somebody in that community should be a part, who lives there, should be a part of the board, and EDC was a part of the board previously, so I'm recommending that we those two gentlemen that are listed in my memo, as well as Tommy Baker with the approval that has been given by the board.
All the other times that we've asked for people to serve on boards, I think we've asked to have it listed on the newspaper and so forth. Have applications been received, and have people, has this been chosen as well?
This board is really unique in reference to that, because it definitely affects them where they live, and they meet on an annual basis, and so I did not. at this point in time, because these people actually served and have a history. I believe this goes until 2031, that they have served previously. And there's people on this board, they'll be from the county, the hospital, there's a water district there, working to do that. And so they have been on there previously, and so they had selected an interest to be on it as it continues. And then, of course, the staff would be 4B, and Mr. Baker is representing that entity. Historically, it was the chairman of, or the CEO.
How many people are on the board total?
There's a total of over 20 people.
Oh, okay.
But the city,
I'm with the hospital.
With the hospital.
yes, the owner, they were here earlier, they're on the board, they have representatives, they have several on the board, the hospital has one, the county has one, the state has one, the county has one, Mr. Gomez, the school has one, Mr. Gomez, there's a huge list of over 20 people. Gomez is our representative from the
What
county.
is the purpose?
The purpose is that, you know, they have to decide what they're gonna do, how they're gonna do, they meet and actually are required to meet, and your attorney can address more so what that board will do. What does that board do?
Well, that board basically is really a refunding board. They provide most of the money because the TIF is tax increment financing, and what they're basically doing, all but the school district agreed to defer taxes associated with the Riverbend project. So they're basically paying off the bondholders that put the initial investment in the infrastructure in the project. And it sounds backwards, but you're in effect deferring the taxes, so those taxes go to that board, and that board pays off the bondholders that invested in the original infrastructure. And we've got a tax payment coming up next year. Currently, they're operating where they're only making interest payments, and not all the interest payments are being made, so that ties to the project you just looked at. Riverbend is not making enough tax revenue to keep the bonds, P and I afloat.
Here. Make a comment. Just so you understand, the board, each taxing entity has one representative. Evergreen Underground, the hospital, the Wilson County. City of Floresville has three. That's gonna be Brett Ross, Bill Martin, and Tommy Baker. And then the state senator, Judy Zapatini, she makes an appointment. And and John Kumpel makes an appointment also. The board probably meets when there is a situation. It's not one of these things every month or every 2 weeks they're meeting. The last time we really had a meeting was probably back in March of 2011. And that's why it's important you have your city representatives and people like Tommy Baker on the board to do that. And we have our own legal, Jim Plummer out of Fulbright is the lawyer for that board. And that's the function of it.
Would it be good to kind of maybe make a report like once a year, at least to say, let's get together once a year, and that way, say the last time we got together with this day and make it kind of a versus
Mario,
11.
absolutely. As a matter of fact, the city council, with the interlocal agreement that was signed, at any time can ask the board, that board, which is the Riverbend Community Development Board and Zone, to make a report.
But is there like a president or something that, from y'all, that comes and all say,
Yeah,
let's get together?
They will, once the board, once it gets fully staffed, which will be probably in a week. We're missing the two from the senator and the state representative. We will have a meeting with Jim Plummer, the lawyer, and people will, once somebody, the treasurer, somebody, the secretary, and things like that. But at any time, the city council can say, we want a report. We want to know what the board's done. And we will furnish all the minutes of all the meetings and things of that nature. So at any time you want it, you get it.
I don't recall, since I've been here, that we've done that.
I just kind of like, I mean, maybe they're gonna get busier as these folks come up and
They
stuff
haven't
like
met,
that.
because last time you met was 2011, correct?
March of 2011 was our last, and that was to settle up after the purchase by Hayden.
Make a motion to go ahead and with representatives for the TIF board of the Riverbend Brent Ross, Bill Martin, and Tommy Baker.
Bill Ross. Is it Bill Ross or Bill Martin?
Bill Martin.
Okay,
Then,
okay. I'm sorry.
Second.
okay, a motion by Councilman Malones, second by Councilman Guerrero, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Okay, now we're gonna go on to 3D, consideration and action to approve the ordinance for 4A building rental fees. Ms. Cotton?
Mayor, council, staff, citizens. For those of you who don't know me, I am Melissa Popham, and I am president of the Floresville 4A. And I bring back to you the proposed Floresville Event Center fee schedule. This isn't anything that's very new. I've brought this to you a couple of times. The board has worked on it for a little over a year now, so bringing it to you for an approval. If you'll notice, there's a line item for previous and proposed. And we have made some adjustments to increase some of the pricing for the ball, for pretty much down the line, everything has gone to a slight increase. We have also included some features with the ballroom rental that we previously charged for. So if you really take a look at it, it's not that large of an increase. The board, along with our attorney, has done lots of research on surrounding centers. Similar to ours, of course, our center is extremely nice compared to some of them that we looked at. We've got a lot to offer people, so we feel that what we are proposing to you is very fair. We would like to make this fee schedule effective immediately because of the time that we put into it. And of course, every time that we book something at an old fee, it's loss of revenue as far as we're concerned.
How does this affect the current contracts?
Everything that's set in contract has been set in the old fees, so everything that is in
This
stone.
is just affecting new ones.
Correct. From hopefully tomorrow forward, we will be able to go with the new fee structure.
Yeah, Mayor, staff has met, I've met, Rhoda's met several times on this. I think this came before you one time before.
A couple of times.
And so we've tweaked it, we've gone back and forth, we met with the attorney, so we're hoping to go forward. Because we knew this was coming in January, when the new calendar year came, we instructed staff to only take deposits, not take full payments from people who have weddings and things such as that, later on in the year to say the fees are gonna go up. Because we try to cut people months to do that. I think we worked very, very hard on the schedule and actually we're following the legal reference to adjusting fee schedules going forward.
Can we try to come up with something like for the nonprofits?
We did. If you'll notate at the bottom of the page, churches, government entities, groups classified as a 501c3, and civic groups which provide a service to the residents of Floresville receive a 20% discount on the above pricing. And we feel that it's very fair to go straight across the board with everyone. That way there's no, they rented it to us for this, they rented it to them for that. It's straight across the board. It's a 20% discount and that's it. We feel that we have, been very flexible up until this point, and the main focus is going to have to be on the center. We've got a lot of organizations who have had things there and they've gotten their feet off the ground. Take the Opry, for instance, it's an amazing event. So we feel now that it's very important that we go forward with this 20% straight across the board.
And also, Corey's been working with staff in reference to developing a policy and procedure, which we don't have in place. They talked about other things like insurances and things such as that. We have, I think we're on our second draft, and hopefully we can wrap it up at the next meeting of the 4A attorneys pertaining that, and when they're done with, run by our attorney, to take care of some things that's left open, policies and procedures, such as if you put the deposit down and you have a certain time, you're gonna get the deposit back. What to do in reference to if you damage something or break some chairs in this policy, you'll be doing the policy and how to address that. And so the 4A board has a draft of that.
And we've learned, through the time that there are certain things that we need to adjust in that. We do have a workshop on Monday with our attorneys and the board, so.
In the fee schedule, I don't, is it typical to see security on here as well, or no?
Yes, yes, because we have a contract, from my understanding, with the Floresville Police Department. All security goes through the Floresville Police Department. There has been a couple of exceptions where we have gone, like the fire department for the wild game. No, it wasn't the fire department, it was the show barn when they had their sale out there. They had officers that were gonna donate their time, so with the chief of police's approval, also city staff, the board's approval, they did allow the deputies to run that because it didn't charge the I think it was the Wilson County Show Barn, not the Show Barn, the Wilson County Stock Show. Yeah, they didn't charge them for their services, so the chief did sign off on that. But any other security has to go through the Floresville Police Department.
Okay, so,
But that's included in?
No, that's additional, you pay security additional.
So what is the additional security for a night, like for a wedding? What is that?
It's based on a per hour is
Yeah,
what
what
they
is
charge.
it?
I believe it's $35 an hour.
but is it like say, per, like say you're inviting 600 guests and you have to have
Yes,
two,
that's right.
two,
Yes, depending on the amount of people.
And that's in the contract?
Yes, yes, it is.
200,
Yes, I believe so.
one officer per 200.
so basically one officer shows up and kind of looks at, or,
They usually know if, whatever their guest list is, I would imagine they base it off of that.
Normally we know in advance, if, they're booking for 500 chairs or whatever, then we can kind of work with that prior.
Well, I think we should move forward with this, because I know that's, y'all come to us before, nothing was done.
Yes, sir.
And, that's why you guys came back to help us go forward.
Yes, sir.
how does this put things in the rest of the normal daily expenses and so forth? Does it kind of make up a little bit?
Well, we're hoping so. I mean, we're gonna collect more revenue, so more revenue means more money, so that's the whole goal.
Real quick, how's the board attendance been since you're signing a new board and expanded?
It's been good. We've done very
No
well.
problem with quorums or anything?
Not at all. We had one meeting, I believe, that, we did cancel, and I was sick, and then, there was 3 of us out, but other than
That's
that,
fine.
we've met.
Wireless
Yes.
meetings all the time.
Yeah, no, we've had one incident where, we didn't meet, but we're good to go.
And there seems to be.
He's usually carrying spirit.
Yes, we've got a very productive board.
Ready to leave in
very-
November. On this staff is set up, $15 an hour, what is that? That's what the employees that are there, or? Staff? Huh?
There should, you should be looking at the sheet that has only one page. The other one is not what I turned in at all. The one that has one page is
That's
what
why I
I
didn't have that one in mind, and Monica just gave it to me, so I'm kind of looking at it, so I'll
Okay.
make, no, I want to table this a minute, I need to.
Mario?
Okay, so this doesn't include anything on the fee schedules of the employees, of any staff?
As far as their.
Like, yeah, their wage?
Oh, no, this has nothing to do with the employees whatsoever. This is strictly a fee schedule for the services that, the center offers. As far as the ballroom, the meeting rooms, the arena, the patio, that kind of, nothing to do with city employees whatsoever.
Really even very detailed as to water and light, because we're trying to rent the arena more, and I believe there's even a fee there for water. We provide you with water, it's $75 fee.
Yes, it's a $75.
So we come on that well water.
I have a motion on the table, Councilman Guerrero.
Yeah, Mayor, I'd like to, make motion to approve the ordinance for 4A building rental fees.
I second the motion.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilman Guerrero, second by Councilman Nieto, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 4-0.
Thank y'all very much.
Thank you. Okay, we're gonna go on to item 3E, consideration and action to approve the updated building permit ordinance 247. Ms. Nichols?
Mayor and council, good evening. What you have in front of you is, the ordinance for the building permit fees. I just want to explain that the last time these fees were, changed was back in 2007, and times have changed since then. We had a code compliance officer in 2006 who was doing most of our plan reviews and inspections. And since then, we've had contracted with Bureau Veritas to do those duties for us. So with that in place, what you see there is what the fees that Bureau Veritas uses is they base it on the 1997 Uniform Building Code fees. And it's been that way since we've been contracted with them. So they also have a tier. And if you see on Exhibit A, it'll tell you what, if you get a permit at construction value of that amount, it tells you what the formula is gonna be for that. This explains how it's done. I have an easy calculator in my computer that all I have to do is plug it in and it tells me what the charge is gonna be. With that, throughout the years, we have not been charging administration fees. We pretty much have been forwarding the cost of all the permits we've been issued and just paying the bill to do the plan reviews and the inspections. So we have not absorbed or made any revenue from any of these permits that we've issued since 2006. So this is what we have in front of you, and we have tables, and it shows what the cost would be. We're adding 30% of admin fees on top of the cost that Bureau Veritas installs on us.
Cindy, on the residential, I see that it jumps from 100,000 to 500,000. What happens to the in-between?
Well, if you look on Exhibit A, it has it in tiers. If you look at where it says 100,000 and 1 penny to 500,000, it tells you what the fee is. Like it would be 900.
We don't have it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Because it was confusing.
It is confusing, because like I
It's very
said,
confusing.
this is how it's broke down to. This is the formula we use.
Yeah, she can explain.
Can I go ahead and jump into this, because I prepared these, so I'm gonna take pride of it. The report that Cindy is referring to is the 1997 Uniform Code that is being used, and it has not been updated since 1997. Veritas is still using these codes. Now, the state of Texas and everybody in the United States is using the international building codes. And those are different, and they're being updated every year. The last one that was updated was in 2012, okay? The exhibit that you have here,
Except we don't have that.
No, you'll have to.
you don't have it. Okay, well, can I have
Quick
that?
question for Cindy.
Yes, sir.
Cindy, on this residential permit fee, okay, let's say someone's building a house and it's $200,000, okay? So who generally pulls a permit on that? The builder for the entire project? Or does this each subcontractor come in and pull their own permit?
The way we have it now is the contractor pulls out his portion, his building permit part of it, and then the subs will pull the electrical, plumbing, and the HVAC.
I know, but, so like let's just say your plumber or whatever, let's say his portion costs $20,000. Does the plumber pay the permit fees on that, or is it
No.
all included on the
No,
homeowner?
the plumber only pays what we have on the fee schedule currently, which is the 6 cents plus $20. 6 cents per square foot plus $20.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's happening right now, for example, HEB Express, have you seen the demolition around there?
Yeah.
They took out a permit, that permit fee was $6,000, because they're doing $1.4 million. That $6,000 is calculated for us to pay the consultant.
Yes.
The city received zero. We received nothing, and actually, city's gonna work a whole lot of time on that. So what we're trying to say is, We are paying a consulting fee based on whatever the consultant is getting, the city should get an administrative fee of 30%. Whether it be Veritas or whether it be Mr. Smith's inspection services. Because right now, the city's getting nothing, and so tax dollars are having to go to pay Cindy, and we're not getting reimbursed for that. So it's just a pass-through is what they've been doing for the last, what,
Since 2006.
since
So
2000.
right now, there's nothing in place?
There's nothing in place, we get nothing. So that $6,000, they wrote $6,992
Or you're saying on the commercial end?
on the residential. So we write that check, we get the check from them, they quickly wrote us that check, HEB, we put it into the system, and then we write the check right out.
Just right out to them.
We get nothing. So Fonda's time, Connie's time, city's time is not compensated for. So that's the purpose of the administrative fee, is to say on residential, a 30% markup of whatever we have to pay for inspectional services, and on commercial, a 50%. Okay, so they're much bigger projects. And HEB is really moving forward, I think, because of what's happening across the street. The gas from the Judas Passage, because they want to be able to compete.
So how's this gonna affect like stuff that's currently,
Anything that's currently in and has been permitted for, it is what it is.
so they haven't pulled their permit?
If they applied at this point, according to the attorney, we have to put it in the newspaper
Yes.
and to post it, and so come around the 15th, anybody who comes in after the 15th, then the new fees will be effective based on whatever you all go on to tonight. But we have to be able to recoup our fees because we can't underwrite these type of things. It should be used as.
But these fees come from,
Very good.
yeah, but what I'm saying is, the cities our size, it's just it doesn't matter if it's in San Antonio, Florida does get the same shot.
Right, what's happening is that when she gets a permit, she extends a permit, she has a calculator, and she enters the value of the property or the permit that she's gonna issue. And that cost is on the inspection service fee column on your schedule. So if they charge $1,940.25 for a $500,000 project, that's how much Veritas is charging us. We're getting nothing. So all those $1,940 are going straight to the vendor.
So the little small permits.
But
that-
Bureau Veritas is paid off.
Yeah, they're getting it,
They get their.
They're getting their,
they're getting everything.
So for the $500 permit fee, Veritas gets $76.92. The city received nothing before. If you allow it, we'll get $11.61 to handle it. It's an administrative fee. And before, we got nothing. And so the typical house of $100,000, Veritas received $596. The city received nothing.
Nothing. So even with your people that come in and they just want to put a patio or a porch or something, typically the construction value of that is probably about $2,000 to $3,000. You're looking, like Ms. Turner said, you're looking at about, it'll be like $76 plus 30, which is $111.20 for the permit.
And out of that, 76 is Veritas.
Yes.
And 3428 is staying in the city.
So it won't be such a hardship to people, the do-it-yourselfers. It's not gonna be a hardship to them.
So we're still tacking on a 30% or a 50% on the plumber, the plumber, the electrician, and the,
No, actually, no, Eric. What the fees that you are seeing are including the
It's
plumbing,
inclusive.
because Bureau does a complete plan review. They review electrical, plumbing, mechanical, so that fee includes all of that. So that fee includes everything, so when it's broken out on your permit, like you pull permits, you see electrical, mechanical, plumbing, each amount on there. That fee is already gonna be in there. The total amount is gonna be for $100,000 home, it's gonna be this much. It's gonna be $1,088.16, okay? All of that is included in there. So the total, the bottom line that the contractor pays is that amount. You know, because the building permit is so much, then you have plumbing added on. You remember how yours are.
but
They're different. You have plumbing, $80, okay?
the problem that I have is because usually a plumber already has his fees of his permit you know, you've gotten the phone calls to say, you know, how much is my permit? From the plumber, from the electrician, from the HVAC guy, from the AC, okay? That's all included here?
That's all in
So how does the contractor say, you know what, your permit fees are $5,000? I mean, to the electrician, to the plumber, to the AC.
Well, because Veritas, Veritas
control the
is
general
saying,
does
because
I thought you said,
on there.
hold on a minute. I thought you said a while ago when they asked about the subcontractors, you said that each subcontractor.
Well, I think it's up to each
paid
general,
in-
however he does it. That's up to the general.
Yeah, but that's,
Currently, right now, each sub is pulling their, and it's based on the fee schedule we have currently,
It goes
which
back
is
to
the
that
square
6 inches
footage.
of square
Yeah,
foot.
plus
The fee schedule is already there, so the total number on our permit,
No,
the total number on our permit ends up the bottom line, it's gonna end up at that 1,008. So each one is gonna inherit a little bit of that 30%. Your general contractor's not gonna get the hit for the 30% all and pay all that out of the building portion. It's gonna be split up between your electrical, plumbing, and your mechanical. Because it has to even out, because if you notice on our permits, it's all listed, and the bottom line is the number. The builder pays so much,
but the
and when
fire.
you add them up.
But the fire monitoring and the fire sprinkler fees are also separate as well. Is that still
no,
included here?
Yes.
What we're trying to tell you is that we contract Veritas to do the inspections.
And
So
then-
every
yeah.
time that we need, let's see, a plumbing inspected, Veritas is gonna send somebody. But Veritas already charged us for the permit, and we already paid Veritas. So that, contractor or plumber or electrician is not gonna actually charge the contractor for coming to, do the inspection. That's already happened.
I've paid it separate.
I don't
I've paid
think
it
that-
separate time, so it's kind of like a double dip if you're speaking about it that way.
For which ones, Eric?
For
Because-
the fire monitoring, fire
Okay, yes,
sprinklers.
but that's paid separately because that is not included in the building. In the, when
Okay.
you're on your commercial plans, Veritas, it's a separate fee. It's a whole separate fee for fire sprinkler and for, the fire alarms.
This is only for construction.
This is only for the
plumbing, electrician,
construction.
Framing,
Right.
foundation, everything that you're gonna pull out a permit to do a construction. So
Bureau
all of that,
charges us
Veritas
separately for
already
that.
charged us for that.
Then
And they're
can,
sending their inspectors.
then
Right.
can I see a breakdown of what's being included for, in the inspection of, from Bureau Veritas, what they're charging for?
No,
Because
They
they're.
give her a calculator that is already in the computer, it's on an Excel spreadsheet.
Mhm.
And all she does is enters the value, and it gives her the total of the
So,
permit.
but y'all don't, so you're saying that y'all don't know what they're charging for?
No,
In
it's included,
the,
it's included on the front. And when we pay the Veritas, because I just paid it last week, it's just the total. That's what they give us.
Just a quick question, I understand that, the costs involved for an electrician or plumber or home builder. Bottom line, is the city losing money or taxpayers losing money by completing these inspections on a daily basis?
It's not losing, but it's not getting.
You're allowed so many inspections with your permit fee, in your fee.
They don't have a limit on inspection, but what's happening now is that the taxpayers are paying, payers are paying for staff to
Right.
run this permit program.
Right.
And the taxpayers should not be, it should not be, because city touches it, county touches it, Fonda touches it, and that costs money. And so your
Would-
underwriting work to do that.
wouldn't it be, and I'm speaking from the customer's perspective, that wouldn't it be a little bit more feasible to have an actual code compliance officer that can go and do these inspections and eliminate Bureau Veritas altogether? Because, whenever you go to plug in all of those formulas, that goes straight to the appraisal district. So the appraisal district still they're still saying, they're still, seeing that valuation as well.
But every permit, every job has a value, and typically they're doing it off of value rather than square footage, because you get more money off the value. Because you can have what HEB's doing up there per square foot is not what, the value is per square foot, it's really, really high. So they do it based off the value, it's like a percentage off of the money. And so whether, if we could have all the services here, but you'd have to have a full team. You'd have to have a team of plumbers, licensed plumbers, and licensed electricians. And your employees would be there, so you
The
could
plan
outsource your
reviewers have to be
sometimes.
certified.
So a code compliance officer would not be able to do that job?
Not all areas.
You need to have people that
Have-
discipline them.
Have y'all looked at any other?
We look at another alternative, and that will be to hire all these people and follow the international uniform code, and that will be a lot more expensive than these. Two that ones.
My concern is that when you start getting, the residential is not as tricky as commercial. Commercial's gonna be really, really tricky. If you can imagine that you built just the H-E-B, just the Holiday Inn Express, and you had the Quinta before you, those are very complicated things, in reference to plan review, in reference to preparing to do the inspections. So definitely under commercial, you need to outsource that, because not everybody can do it. You do not have a team. Just to be able to make sure that you have a structural engineer, not a civil engineer like Mr. Heimer, a structural engineer to review those plans, to make sure they're structurally sound.
And you will have
You
to
need to
bring
have
them from San Antonio and the traveling cost and everything to get that one inspector to come and inspect only the iron framing for a commercial, that will be very costly.
No, Veritas is just one of the inspectors. So this ordinance is written, so whether it be Veritas or whether it be whomever does our inspection services, whatever their fee is, we get 30% of whatever we're paying them. In the last time I looked at the numbers, we paid Veritas this fiscal year over $98,000. So they made $98,000 of us, and we've made zero. And actually, we haven't even been able to pay Cindy to process $98,000 worth of permits. And so it's basically how they want to be able to use this, is basically, we need 30% of whatever it is. It's like a handling fee
Why
or
not
a processing fee.
Why not 20?
20% would actually, if you look at the lowest amount, for 20%, not even $12, you'd be getting like $7 or something. You would get a fee of $7.
Here's my concern. How do these fees look to all the adjacent cities? Because what's gonna happen is whenever someone goes to start construction, the cost of the house is gonna go up. That 30% or 50%, whatever it is, the cost of the house is gonna go up. So Riverbend, for instance, looking at, a low $200,000 house, it's already pushing, another 50,000 on there.
Cities around Floresville right now, they are also reviewing their ordinance for building permits. Because they're out today.
And I think we did a kind of like a,
Ellendorf has the same, Veritas that we do, and they have a 27 to 55% increase on theirs. And actually, they make more money on their permits than what we're being proposing here.
I'd be concerned to say that, people are gonna pass us up because they don't wanna build here in the first place, because of the
Actually,
existing fees.
Floresville is the cheapest on the permits.
And the tax.
Yes,
In the
I
tax.
would like to see that.
Okay, I can go ahead and call one of the cities or two of the cities around here, because I know that if we compare us to San Antonio, San Antonio takes us by because their fees for permits are very high.
Mhm. For certain things, because I speak to a lot of contractors and they
I just
give
built
me
that
more cut.
house in 2011,
Mhm.
and as they were going through the process, I would, because I like to see, and the permits were pretty high, and that was residential.
Well, if you like, we need you a schedule of what you want, but also I would compare what it costs to run a permanent department as well. Because Cindy's fee, she's salary, but I'm on her benefits, and then the other people in the area that touch, so some of Fonda and processing what she has to process, Connie, what she has to do, even the portion of the audit, because they have to come in and audit, that's all part of what it costs to be able to do permits.
Now, why can't we have like a review board, a group of people that are specialized, the master plumbers and master electricians to review plans as they come in, and then, to me, that sounds a little bit more beneficial to the city and to the customers, because there's some customers that just want to replace a water heater, and they they have to pull permits for changing a water heater.
And that fee is they pay, for that is $76.92 Veritas gets for that permit, and the city gets nothing for right now. So what we would add is that $11.63 for them to pull that permit.
So at that time, whenever you have a code compliance officer, you can go and you can charge a $25 charge instead of $76, or that's already on top of a $300, you know, on top of a $300 water heater.
You have to get a code compliance monitor that knows about construction. And right now, I understand that we're gonna get one only for,
But that's not, I mean, for what we have budgeted for, what you budgeted for a code compliance officer, is not somebody who's gonna be in the trades. You need somebody who's gonna be able to stamp some drawings, you need somebody who's gonna be able to sign off.
Certified.
The state requires a certified plumbing inspector.
Well, we've had city employees go and do inspections without, and they're not certified,
Not for plumbing.
and not for electrical either.
Electrical, you can actually, the city manager can actually appoint, they're called like a regulator, they can actually do inspections. But the state mandates, they have a board, they mandate that the plumbing inspectors are certified.
And then the city staff also does foundation
So,
and
so,
source labs.
Again,
So
that's
if we have
another,
a-
that goes with
We're not in compliance.
and that goes again being
so
appointed
if
as a
we have
regulator.
electrical fire, then the city's responsible?
Right.
Right, yes.
Now, you've outsourced this some time ago, I mean, Veritas has been doing your inspections.
2006.
Realistically, we need to have somebody in-house on staff to begin with, because even for enforcing the citations and things like that, you know, we realistically, the city staff can hand out the citations anyways.
Actually, they can, if the, they can. They can. We've already talked to the chief in reference to that, and we'll be meeting with, it should be starting on the 26th or 27th? 27th.
That Monday, that week.
That Monday, and her focus will be, that and dog control, because we have some issues with dogs, but historically.
Yes, sir.
and we can do like a committee that we can look at these rates more closely. But the only problem right now that we're facing is all this commercial that is coming in, and we're getting no revenue out of it. And the only way that we're gonna get out of the
Can you say commercial permit fees and not touch residential?